The Texas sun beat down merciless on the border town of Agua Dulce, turning the dusty main street into a furnace. August 1870. The kind of heat that made men mean and horses drop dead in their traces. Samuel "Sam" McKenna guided his wagon through the throng of cowboys, merchants, and desperate souls who'd gathered for the monthly livestock market, though everyone knew it wasn't just cattle being traded here. Sam had been on the trail for 3 days, dust caking his weathered face, his hat pulled low against the glare. At 37, he'd lived enough lives for 3 men: soldier, husband, father, widower, now just a rancher with too much land and too many ghosts. His spread lay 40 miles north, isolated enough that a man could go weeks without seeing another soul. That's how he preferred it these days. The market sprawled across the town square, a chaos of bellowing cattle, shouting auctioneers, and the acrid smell of sweat and manure. Sam had come to buy breeding stock, nothing more, but as he tied his horse to the hitching post, something caught his eye, a commotion near the far end of the square, where the crowds grew thicker and the voices rougher. He'd heard talk, of course, everyone had. How certain traders dealt in more than livestock. How desperate women from across the border sometimes found themselves on the auction block alongside the horses and mules. The law turned a blind eye, long as the right palms got greased. Sam had always steered clear of that corner of the market. Wasn't his business, wasn't his problem. But today, something pulled him forward. The crowd parted reluctantly as he shouldered through, hard men with harder faces. Some he recognized, others strangers. The smell hit him first. Unwashed bodies, fierce sweat, desperation thick as smoke. Then he saw them. A dozen women huddled in the shade of a canvas awning, chains linking their ankles. Most kept their eyes down, faces hidden by matted hair. They'd been there a while. Judging by the sunburn on exposed skin, the cracked lips, the hollow look that comes from too many days without hope. "Ain't nothing here for you, McKenna," growled Jake Doyle, the trader who ran this particular enterprise, a mountain of a man with pig eyes and gold teeth. "'Less you're looking to warm that empty house of yours." Sam said nothing, just swept his gaze across the pitiful scene. He was already turning to leave when he felt it, a small tug on his coat. He looked down to find a child. Couldn't be more than 4 years old, her tiny fingers wrapped in the dusty fabric of his duster. "Please, mister," she whispered in accented English. "Please help." She was a slip of a thing, all dark eyes and tangled black hair, wearing a dress that might once have been white, but now hung in grimy tatters. Mexican, or maybe Indian, or both. The kind of child who had no business being in a place like this. "Get back here, you little rat!" One of Doyle's men started forward, hand raised. Sam's hand dropped to his Colt. "Touch her and you'll be picking your teeth out of the dirt." The man stopped, glancing at Doyle, who waved him back with a curse. The child pressed closer to Sam's leg. "My mama?" she said, pointing with a trembling finger. "She's sick, real sick. Nobody wants to buy sick lady. Man says—" Her voice broke. "Man says he'll leave her in the desert if nobody takes her." Sam followed her gesture to a figure slumped against a post, barely conscious. The woman's face was gaunt with fever, her breathing shallow. Even from 10 feet away, he could see she wouldn't last another day in this heat without care. That one's been nothing but trouble. Doyle spat tobacco juice into the dust. "Fought like a wildcat till the fever took her. Now she's just dead weight. Was gonna cut my losses, but if you're interested—" His grin was all greed. $20 and she's yours." "Hell, I'll throw in the brat for free." The child's fingers tightened on Sam's coat. "Please take Mama," she whispered. Then, in a voice so small he almost missed it, "You can take me instead if you want. Just save Mama." Something cracked inside Sam's chest. He saw another child, another face, Emma, his Emma, taken by the fever 2 winters past, same age as this one, same desperate love in her eyes, though Emma's had been for him, begging him to make the sickness stop, to make Mama wake up. He'd failed them both. His hand found the leather pouch in his coat, the gold meant for cattle, for building his herd, enough to buy 50 head of good stock. He pulled it out, hefted it once, then tossed it at Doyle's feet. "I'll take both." The words came out rough, like they'd been dragged over broken glass. The crowd stirred, murmuring. That was enough gold to buy half the women there. Doyle's eyes widened, then narrowed with suspicion. "Both? That's 3 times what—" "Both," Sam repeated. "And you'll give me a wagon to transport them?" "That one." He pointed to a rickety buckboard nearby. "Have your men load her careful like. She takes any more hurt. We'll have words." "Now wait just a minute." Sam's hand moved to his gun again. "We got a problem. Doyle?" The trader's face flushed red, but he knew better than to push. Sam McKenna might keep to himself these days, but everyone remembered what he'd been before. Cavalry captain, Indian fighter, the man who'd brought in the Vasquez gang single-handed. Grief might have gentled him some, but it hadn't made him soft. "Load her up," Doyle barked at his men. "Gentle-like, as the man says." They carried the woman to the wagon, laid her on a bed of straw. Up close, Sam could see she'd been pretty once, before hardship carved lines in her face and fever dulled her olive skin. Young still, maybe late 20s. Her wrists showed rope burns, her arms bruises in various stages of healing. But she was breathing, and that was what mattered. The child scrambled up beside her mother, smoothing the tangled hair back from her face, whispering in Spanish. Sam caught a few words. "Mama, sleep, safe now. What's your name? Little one?" he asked as he checked the harness. "Rosa," she said. "Mama is Elena. She's going to be okay now." Sam looked at the fevered woman, at the long road ahead, at the empty house waiting for them. He thought of graves on a hillside, of promises he couldn't keep, of a silence so complete it could drive a man mad. "We'll do our best," he said finally. It was all the promise he could make. As they rolled out of Agua Dulce, the child curled against her mother's side. Sam heard Doyle laughing behind them, counting his gold. Let him laugh. Sam had made worse bargains in his life. At least this one might end with something besides another grave to tend. The sun was starting its decline toward the horizon, painting the desert in shades of gold and red. 40 miles to home. He'd have to stop at Covenant Springs, see if old Martha was still there with her herbs and healing ways. The woman, Elena, wouldn't make it to the ranch without help. "Mister?" Rosa's voice was small in the vastness of the desert. "Why did you help us?" Sam kept his eyes on the trail ahead. How could he explain about empty chairs and silent rooms, about a child's laughter that existed now only in memory, about the terrible arithmetic of loss, how saving 2 lives wouldn't bring back the 2 he'd lost, but might make the guilt weigh a little less? "Because I could," he said finally. "Sometimes that's reason enough." The child seemed to accept this, settling back against her mother. As the wagon rolled north, Sam allowed himself one glance back. The market was already fading into the heat shimmer, like a bad dream dissolving in daylight. Whatever happened next, at least these 2 were free of that hell. It wasn't redemption. Sam had given up on that long ago, but it was something. The desert stretched endless before them, but for the first time in 2 years, Sam McKenna wasn't riding toward it alone. The McKenna Ranch sat in a valley between 2 ridges, sheltered from the worst of the desert winds, but open enough to catch the morning light. As the wagon creaked up the final rise, Sam saw his house through Rosa's eyes, weathered boards gone silver with age, a sagging porch, windows dark as empty eye sockets. 2 years of neglect showed in the untended garden, the broken gate, the silence that hung over everything like dust. "Is this home?" Rosa asked, her small hand finding her mother's burning forehead. Elena hadn't stirred since Covenant Springs, where old Martha had forced willow bark tea between her cracked lips and muttered prayers in 3 languages. "It is now," Sam said, though the words felt strange. This hadn't been home since Mary and Emma died, just a place to sleep between days of work. He carried Elena inside first, her weight nothing in his arms, Fever and hardship had worn her down to bird bones and shallow breath. The main bedroom had been closed since Mary passed. He couldn't bear to use it. Instead, he laid Elena in Emma's room, the one with morning light and yellow curtains Mary had sewn the spring before the sickness came. Rosa followed like a shadow, clutching a ragged cloth doll. She watched as Sam stripped the dust sheets from furniture, opened windows to air out the mustiness, found clean linens in the cedar chest. Her dark eyes took in everything: the rocking horse in the corner, the shelf of carved animals, the sampler on the wall. Bless this home in Mary's careful stitches. "Was this a little girl's room?" Rosa whispered. Sam's hands stilled on the quilt he was spreading. "Yes. Where is she?" "Gone." The word came out rougher than intended. He softened his voice. "She got sick, like your mama, but we're going to help your mama get better." Rosa nodded solemnly, accepting this with the strange wisdom children sometimes showed. She climbed onto the bed beside Elena, curling against her side like a protective puppy. The next hours blurred together. Sam hauled water from the well, heated it on the long cold stove, found the medicine box Mary had kept stocked. His hands remembered the motions: cooling cloths for fever, spoonfuls of water to combat the killing thirst of desert sickness. But it was different now. Then, he'd been frantic, desperate. Now he moved with careful purpose, as if steadiness could make up for his former failures. Rosa helped with touching eagerness. She wrung out cloths with her small hands, sang Spanish lullabies when Elena stirred fitfully, held the cup while Sam lifted her mother's head to drink. The child worked with a competence beyond her years, and Sam realized with a sick feeling that this wasn't her first time nursing someone through illness. Night fell. Sam built up the fire, found canned beans and hardtack, poor fare. But Rosa ate like it was a feast. She insisted on saving half for when Mama wakes up. "Your Mama, she's strong," Sam said, watching the child carefully divide the meager portions. "To have raised you so well." Rosa's face lit up. "Mama is the strongest. She fought the bad men when they came to our village. She bit one." Pride and fear warred in her expression. "That's why they put the chains on her. But she said as long as we were together, we would be okay." Sam's jaw tightened. He'd suspected as much from the rope burns, the bruises. "No one's going to put chains on her again, or you. You have my word on that." The child studied him with those two old eyes. "You're not like the other men who wanted to buy us." "No," Sam agreed. "I'm not." Why? He thought of Mary, teaching Emma her letters at the kitchen table, of summer evenings on the porch, listening to his daughter's elaborate stories about her doll's adventures, of promises to protect them that he'd been powerless to keep. "Because some things aren't for buying or selling," he said finally. "People most of all." Rosa seemed to consider this. Then she scooted closer to where he sat by the fire, though she didn't quite touch him. "The trader man said we were property, said the papers made it legal. The trader man was wrong." Sam poked at the fire, sending sparks up the chimney. "Papers don't make a person property. Nothing does." They sat in companionable silence, the fire crackling between them. From the bedroom came Elena's labored breathing, steadier now, but still worrisome. Sam rose to check on her, found her fever had broken enough that she was sweating rather than burning. A good sign, old Martha had said, but not out of danger yet. He was adjusting the blankets when Elena's eyes fluttered open. For a moment she stared at him, confused. Then terror flashed across her face. She tried to sit up, one hand clawing for a weapon that wasn't there. "Easy," Sam said, stepping back with his hands visible. "You're safe. Your daughter's safe. This is my home. You're sick, but you're going to be all right." Elena's wild gaze darted around the room, took in the child's furnishings, the clean sheets, the absence of chains. Her voice came out as a croak. "Rosa? Right here. Mama!" The child flew into the room, flinging herself carefully against her mother's side. "The good man saved us. He gave all his gold and brought us to his house and made you medicine and—" "Hush, Mia!" Elena's trembling hand smoothed Rosa's hair. Her eyes found Sam's over her daughter's head. wary, questioning, but no longer terrified. "You bought us?" "I paid for your freedom," Sam corrected. "Nothing more. When you're well, you're free to go wherever you wish." She studied him for a long moment. "Men don't pay gold for women and children without wanting something. Some do." He met her gaze steadily. "I'm not one of them. You needed help. I could give it. That's all." Elena looked around the room again, her gaze lingering on the rocking horse, the shelf of toys. Understanding dawned in her eyes. "You had a daughter?" "Emma. She was 4, like Rosa. Was." The word hung between them, heavy with meaning. Elena pulled Rosa closer. "I'm sorry." Sam nodded, not trusting his voice. He busied himself refilling the water pitcher, aware of Elena watching him, measuring him against some internal scale. "We'll work for our keep," she said finally. "When I'm better, I can cook, clean, sew. Rosa helps. We won't be a burden." "Rest first," Sam said. "Worry about the rest later." He left them together, mother and daughter whispering in Spanish. The main room felt too empty, too quiet. So he stepped onto the porch. The stars were coming out, brilliant in the clear desert air. Mary had loved nights like this. They'd sit together after Emma was asleep, planning improvements to the ranch, dreaming of the family they'd have. 3 more children, maybe 4. A full house, she'd said, a home bursting with life and laughter. Instead, he'd buried them both on the hill behind the barn, under the oak tree where Emma liked to play. The house had been a tomb ever since, and he'd been fine with that. Better a tomb than to risk loving and losing again. But now there was a child in Emma's bed, a woman fighting for life in Emma's room, and the house didn't feel quite so dead. Dangerous, that. Hope was a luxury Sam McKenna could no longer afford. He stayed on the porch until the night grew cold, then went inside to tend the fire. Rosa had fallen asleep curled against her mother, one small hand clutching Elena's nightgown. Elena herself dozed fitfully, occasionally murmuring words he couldn't catch. Sam settled into the chair by the fire, rifle across his knees out of old habit. He'd sleep light tonight, ready for whatever might come. Doyle might regret the sale come morning, might send men to reclaim his property, or Elena might wake stronger, might take Rosa and run, fearing what debt she owed. Or the fever might return, might claim her despite his efforts, leaving him with another child to bury and another failure to carry. But for tonight, his house held life again. The fire crackled. Breathing came from the bedroom. 2 sets, steady and deep, and for the first time in 2 years. The silence didn't press against Sam McKenna like a weight. It wasn't home yet, might never be again, but it was no longer just a place to wait for death. That, Sam figured, was a start. 3 days passed before Elena could stand without swaying. 3 days of careful nursing, thin broths, and Rosa's constant vigilance. Sam had fallen into a routine, morning chores, checking on his patients, more chores, simple meals. He kept his distance, speaking only when necessary, aware of Elena's eyes following him whenever he entered the room. On the 4th morning, he found her in the kitchen. She stood at the stove, one hand braced against the wall for support, stirring something in a pot. She'd found one of Mary's old dresses in the wardrobe, hung loose on her thin frame, but clean. Her dark hair was braided back, revealing the sharp bones of her face, the hollow beneath her cheekbones that spoke of too many hungry days. "You should be resting," Sam said from the doorway. Elena spun, nearly lost her balance, caught herself on the table edge, the ladle in her hand raised like a weapon. For a moment they stared at each other, she breathing hard, he careful not to move. "I'm making breakfast," she said, chin lifting with a pride that reminded him of an unbroken Mustang. "We don't take charity. It's not charity, you're still sick. I'm well enough to work." She turned back to the stove, movement stiff but determined. "Rosa told me you've been sleeping in the barn. This is your house. We should be the ones. The barn's fine. I've slept in worse places." She whirled on him then, eyes blazing. "Why? Why what? Why all of this?" The ladle shook in her grip. You buy us like cattle. Bring us here. Give us food and medicine and clothes. Sleep in your own barn like a hired hand? What game are you playing? No game. Men always want something." Her voice rose, edged with hysteria. "Always. So tell me, what's your price? You want me to warm your bed, cook and clean and pretend to be your dead wife? Want me to—" The ladle clattered to the floor. She pressed both hands to her face, shoulders shaking. Not crying, Sam realized. Fighting not to cry. "Mama?" Rosa appeared in the doorway, still in her nightgown, fear bright in her eyes. "It's all right, mija." Elena's voice came muffled through her hands. Go get dressed." Rosa looked between them, uncertain. Sam nodded at her. "There's biscuits in the pantry. Why don't you get one and eat it on the porch? Watch for rabbits. Sometimes they come down for water in the morning." The child brightened. "Really? Really? Take the yellow blanket if you're cold." After Rosa left, Sam bent to retrieve the ladle, set it carefully on the table. Elena still stood with her face covered, breathing in sharp gasps. "My wife died 2 years ago," he said quietly. "Scarlet fever. My daughter went 3 days later, 4 years old. Just like Rosa, I sat by their beds and watched them burn up with fever and couldn't do a damn thing to stop it." Elena's hands lowered slowly. "I bought cattle at that market for 15 years. Always knew what went on at the other end. Always told myself it wasn't my business. Then your girl tugged on my coat, and for a second I thought—" He stopped, cleared his throat. "Doesn't matter what I thought. Point is, I had gold I didn't need and you needed help. That's all." "That's all?" She studied him with dark, wounded eyes. "You expect me to believe you want nothing? Believe what you want. When you're strong enough to travel, I'll take you wherever you want to go. Socorro, El Paso, anywhere there's a train. Until then, this is just a place to rest and get well." She was quiet for a long moment. Then, "Rosa says you talk to graves." Sam stiffened. He did visit Mary and Emma each evening, had taken to telling them about the day, the kind of small talk they used to share over supper. He hadn't realized the child had followed him. "Sometimes," he admitted. "She says you tell them about us, that you think they would have liked us." Heat crawled up his neck. "The girl's got big ears. She's had to—" Elena moved to the window, looking out at Rosa on the porch, wrapped in Mary's yellow quilt. "In the places we've been, big ears meant the difference between safety and not safety." "How long were you with Doyle?" Her shoulders tensed. 2 months. There were others before. Rosa's father sold us when she was 2. Said a half-breed child and a ruined woman were worth less than the debt he owed. She laughed. Bitter as alkali water. "He was right. We weren't worth much at all by the time you found us. You're worth more than gold to that little girl. I've done things." The words came out flat, empty. "To survive, to keep Rosa fed. Things that would make decent folk turn away in disgust." Sam thought of battlefields, of things he'd done wearing Union blue that still visited him at night, of choices made when all options were bad ones. "We all do what we have to," he said. "Doesn't make you worth less." She turned to face him fully then, and he saw the storm building in her eyes. "You don't understand. You can't. You're a man, a white man with land and money and—" She grabbed the heavy ceramic pitcher from the table, raised it high. "You bought me, like a horse or a plow. You think that makes you good? You think that makes you different?" She hurled the pitcher. Sam didn't move. It smashed against the wall beside his head, shards flying. Water dripped down the wallpaper Mary had chosen their first year here. "You own me," Elena screamed. "You have papers that say I belong to you. How am I supposed to? How can I—" She grabbed for something else to throw, found the sugar bowl. "No papers." Sam kept his voice level. "Didn't take any papers." She froze. Bowl raised. "What?" "Doyle tried to give me a bill of sale. I told him to burn it. Far as the law knows, you were never there. Neither was Rosa." The bowl lowered slowly. But then you can't prove." "Don't need to prove anything. You're not property. Never were, no matter what any paper said." The sugar bowl slipped from her fingers, shattering on the floor. Sugar scattered like snow across the boards. Elena stared at the mess, then at him, then back at the broken ceramic. She swayed. Sam stepped forward, caught her elbow as her knees buckled. She jerked away from his touch, caught herself on the table. Just don't. I'll clean this up, Sam said. You should rest. I said I would work for our keep. And I said rest first. We can figure out the rest later. She looked up at him, tears finally spilling over. I don't understand you. Don't need to. Just need to get well. He moved to fetch the broom, giving her space. Behind him, he heard her sink into a chair, heard the quiet sob she tried to muffle. He swept up ceramic and sugar, mopped up the water, aware of her watching him. When he finished, she was still at the table, face buried in her arms. The dress, she said, muffled. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have taken it without asking. It's just cloth. Mary would have wanted. He stopped. Take whatever you need, for you and Rosa both. She lifted her head. Your wife. Was she kind? The kindest person I ever knew. Rosa would have loved her. Yes, Sam agreed quietly. She would have. Elena wiped her face with her sleeve, a gesture so like Rosa that it made Sam's chest tight. I'll try to trust you, for Rosa. But if this is some game, if you're waiting until I let my guard down. It's not. Then what is it? Sam looked out the window to where Rosa sat wrapped in sunshine and yellow wool, watching for rabbits with the patience of a born hunter. He thought of empty rooms filled with small voices again, of a table set for 4 instead of 1, of the terrible risk of caring for people you could lose. I don't know, he admitted. Maybe just a chance for all of us to be something other than what we've been. Elena followed his gaze to her daughter. When she spoke again, her voice was smaller, younger. I want to believe that's possible. Then stay until you do, or until you're ready to find something better. She was quiet for a long moment. Then, the beans are burning. Sam turned to the stove, where indeed the pot was beginning to smoke. He moved it off the heat, added water to salvage what he could. When he turned back, Elena had risen, moving carefully toward the door. I'll rest, she said. But tomorrow I cook, and no more sleeping in the barn. This is your house. She paused at the threshold. Mr. McKenna, thank you for not taking papers, for all of it. She left before he could respond. Through the window, he watched her join Rosa on the porch, saw the child immediately curl into her mother's side. They sat together in the morning light, 2 survivors finding peace in each other's presence. Sam stood in his kitchen, surrounded by broken ceramic and the ghost of old wallpaper, and wondered if a house that had held so much sorrow could learn to hold something else, something like hope. Maybe, or even just the possibility of it. From the porch came Rosa's excited voice. Mama, look! A rabbit, just like Mr. Sam said. And for the first time in 2 years, the sound of a child's joy didn't make him want to weep. The riders came at dawn. 10 days after Sam had brought Elena and Rosa home. He'd been expecting them. Men like Jake Doyle didn't let gold walk away without trying to claw some back. Sam spotted the dust cloud from the barn where he was feeding the horses, counted 4 riders moving fast up the valley road. He walked quick but calm to the house, found Elena kneading bread in the kitchen while Rosa played with wooden blocks on the floor, toys that had been Emma's, now bringing joy to another child. Take Rosa to the root cellar, he said, already moving to the cabinet where he kept the Winchester. Now, Elena's face went white, but she didn't argue. She'd learned to read his moods these past days, knew the difference between his everyday quiet and this sudden stillness. She scooped up Rosa, who protested being pulled from her game. Just a game, mija, Elena murmured. We're going to hide like rabbits. Sam checked the rifle's load, then the Colt at his hip. Through the window, he could see the riders clearly now, Doyle himself in the lead, his bulk unmistakable even at a distance. The 3 others were hired guns by their look, hard men with harder reputations. Sam. Elena paused at the cellar door. If something happens, nothing's going to happen. Stay down there until I call for you. She nodded, disappeared down the wooden steps with Rosa. Sam heard the bolt slide home from inside. Good. He'd reinforced that door himself years ago, back when Comanche raids were still a worry. It would hold. He stepped onto the porch as the riders thundered into the yard. Stood easy with the rifle cradled in his arms. Not pointing, not yet, but ready. Morning, Jake, he called as Doyle reined up hard, his bay gelding dancing with nerves. Long ride from town. Coffee's on if you're civilized about it. Doyle's pig eyes narrowed. You know why I'm here. McKenna. I expect I do. Had time to think about our transaction. Seems I was a mite hasty. Man makes decisions in the heat of the moment he might come to regret. That's so. Way I figure it, you took advantage. I was distracted, overwhelmed by your generosity. But facts are facts. I got papers on those two. Legal papers. They're mine by rights. And I mean to have them back. Sam shifted slightly, the rifle's barrel catching morning light. Funny thing about papers, they burn real easy. One of Doyle's men, a lean scarecrow with dead eyes, spoke up. 4 of us, 1 of you. Odds ain't in your favor, old man. Son, I've faced worse odds with worse men. Sam's voice stayed conversational. Rode with Sheridan in the Shenandoah. Spent 2 years fighting Comanche. You want to try me, you're welcome to, but I guarantee at least 2 of you won't ride out of this valley. The scarecrow's hand twitched toward his gun. Doyle stopped him with a gesture. Now, no need for unpleasantness. Doyle's smile was all teeth and greed. I'm a reasonable man. You paid good gold, I'll grant that. But market values changed. Those 2 are worth more than I thought. The woman's pretty under all that dirt. And the girl, well, young ones always fetch a premium from certain buyers. Sam's finger found the trigger. You need to stop talking now. Or what? You'll shoot us all down in cold blood? That ain't your way, McKenna. You're one of those honorable types. It's why your wife and brat are feeding worms while men like me prosper. The words hit like a physical blow. Sam's vision narrowed, focused on the spot between Doyle's eyes where a bullet would end his miserable life. But he held still, held steady. Mary wouldn't want him to kill for vengeance. Emma wouldn't understand why Papa had blood on his hands. Here's what's going to happen, Sam said. Voice gone quiet in that way that made smart men nervous. You're going to turn around and ride out. You're going to forget you ever saw that woman and child. And if I hear you've been trading in human misery again, I'll come find you. That's not a threat. Jake, that's a promise from one businessman to another. Doyle laughed, ugly and harsh. You've gone soft. McKenna, living alone, talking to graves, mooning over your dead. The rifle shot cracked like thunder. Doyle's hat flew off his head. A neat hole punched through the crown. The horses danced and snorted. The hired guns froze, calculating distances and odds. That was your one warning. Sam worked the lever, chambered another round with practiced ease. Next one goes lower. Doyle's face had gone purple with rage, but he wasn't stupid. He knew Sam McKenna's reputation, knew that during the war he'd been the best marksman in his regiment. That hat shot hadn't been luck. This ain't over, he snarled. You can't watch them every minute, can't protect them forever. One day you'll slip up, and I'll be waiting. Maybe, Sam allowed, but not today. For a long moment, nobody moved. The morning air hung still and hot, heavy with the promise of violence. Then Doyle jerked his horse's head around. Let's go, he barked at his men. They wheeled their mounts, but the scarecrow couldn't resist one last look back. Should have taken the easy way, old man. Now it'll be hard. For all of you. They galloped out in a cloud of dust and profanity. Sam stayed on the porch, rifle ready, until they were specks in the distance. Even then he waited, knowing men like Doyle sometimes doubled back. Only when he was certain they were gone did he lower the weapon. Elena, he called. It's safe. The cellar door creaked open. Elena emerged first, Rosa clinging to her skirts. The child's face was streaked with tears. But Elena's expression was harder to read. Fear, yes, but something else. Something that looked like wonder. "You stood against them," she said softly. "4 armed men, and you stood against them? For us. Told you no one would put chains on you again. But they'll come back. Men like that always come back." Her voice held the weary certainty of experience. "We should leave. Tonight. Before—" "No. You don't understand. I've seen what they do when they're angry. To women who run, to children who—" She pulled Rosa closer. "We've brought trouble to your door. The least we can do is take it away again." Sam set the rifle against the porch rail, descended the steps slowly. Elena backed up, instinctively protective, but he stopped a respectful distance away. "You know what I thought about during the war?" he asked. "When we were burning our way through the Shenandoah, following orders that turned my stomach, I thought about home, about having a place where right mattered more than might, where a man could stand his ground for what was decent and good." He looked out over his land, the barn he'd built with his own hands, the corral where he'd taught Emma to ride, the garden plot Mary had tended with such care. "This is that place, my place, and now it's yours too, for as long as you need it. Doyle wants a fight. He'll get one. But I won't let fear drive me off my own land, and I won't let it drive you away either." Rosa tugged on her mother's skirt. "Mama, is the bad man gone?" "Yes, Mija, Mister. Sam scared him away." The child studied Sam with those 2 wise eyes. "Will he come back?" Sam crouched down to her level. "Maybe. But you know what? I've got something he doesn't." "What?" "I've got right on my side, and I've got help." He winked at her. "You were very brave, hiding so quiet, like a real rabbit." Rosa managed a small smile. "I held my breath the whole time." "The whole time? That's impressive." As he straightened, Elena touched his arm. The first time she'd voluntarily made contact since that day in the kitchen. Her fingers barely grazed his sleeve before pulling back, but he felt the gesture like a brand. "You got hurt," she said. Sam glanced down, surprised to see blood seeping through his shirt. In the intensity of the moment, he hadn't noticed the wood splinter that had gouged his shoulder when Doyle's men had ridden in close to the porch. "It's nothing. It's not nothing." That familiar steel entered her voice. "Inside. Now. Rosa, get the medicine box." Before Sam could protest, he found himself being herded into his own kitchen, pushed into a chair while Elena heated water and Rosa fetched supplies with the efficiency of a trained nurse, which, he supposed, she was. Life had made her one. "Shirt off," Elena commanded. "I can tend it myself. Shirt off." Her glare could have scorched paint. "You stand between us and those men. The least I can do is keep you from getting blood poisoning." Sam surrendered, shrugging carefully out of his shirt. Elena's intake of breath made him self-conscious. The war had left its marks, saber scar across his ribs, puckered bullet wound in his back, various other souvenirs of violence. "So many scars," she murmured, then caught herself. "Hold still." Her hands were gentle but sure as she cleaned the wound, picked out splinters with steady precision. Rosa watched solemnly, handing her mother supplies without being asked. "There." Elena tied off the bandage. "It should heal clean if you don't do anything stupid." "Yes, ma'am." She almost smiled at that. Almost. Then her face sobered. "Sam, what you did today, I don't know how to thank you. Don't want thanks, just want you both safe." "Why?" That question again, but softer this time. "Why do we matter to you?" Sam looked at Rosa, who was carefully putting supplies back in the medicine box, arranging them just so. He thought of Emma doing the same thing, playing nurse to her dolls, of second chances and empty rooms and the terrible courage it took to care again. "Because you do," he said simply. "That's all. You just do." Elena's eyes filled with tears. She blinked back fiercely. "No one's ever, just because we mattered. There was always a price. No price here, just neighbors helping neighbors." "Neighbors," she repeated, testing the word. Is that what we are? If you want to be. She looked around the kitchen at the new flower sack curtains she'd sewn. The wildflowers Rosa had picked for the table. The evidence of life returning to this house of grief. Yes, she said quietly. I think I'd like that. Outside, the sun climbed higher, baking the valley in shimmering heat. There would be work to do, always work on a ranch. But for now. Sam sat in his kitchen while Elena fussed over his bandage and Rosa chattered about rabbits. And something that had been broken inside him began, carefully, to knit itself back together. The night was thick with summer heat, the kind that made sleep elusive even with windows thrown wide. Sam sat on the porch, nursing coffee gone cold, watching lightning play across distant mountains. 3 weeks had passed since Doyle's visit. 3 weeks of watchful quiet, of healing, of something almost like normal life taking root. Eliana appeared in the doorway, wrapped in one of Mary's shawls. Couldn't sleep either. Storm coming, Sam said. Always makes me restless. She settled into the other chair, Mary's chair, though he tried not to think of it that way. They'd developed this habit, these late-night conversations when Rosa slept and the world felt less dangerous. In Sonora, we loved the storms. Elena said, they meant the end of drought, meant the corn would grow tall. Her voice carried that wistful note it got when she spoke of home. My brother Miguel and I would dance in the rain like fools. You miss him. Every day. She pulled the shawl tighter. He probably thinks I'm dead. Maybe it's better that way. Family should know the truth. The truth? She laughed, bitter. That I was sold like livestock? That I've been... She stopped, swallowed hard. No. Let him remember me as I was. Thunder rumbled closer. The first fat drops of rain hit the dusty yard. Sam watched her profile in the lamplight. The proud set of her jaw. The way she held herself even now like something unbroken. You survived, he said quietly. That's the only truth that matters. She turned to him then, eyes bright with unshed tears. Is it? Sometimes I think I died back there, in those camps, in those rooms. What's left is just a ghost pretending to be alive. You're no ghost. Ghosts don't fight like you do, don't love their daughters like you do. How would you know? The words came sharp, defensive. Because I've been a ghost. Sam set down his cup, leaned forward. For 2 years, I was the walking dead, going through motions, tending graves, waiting to join them. Then you and Rosa came, and I remembered what living felt like. The rain came harder now, drumming on the roof, turning the yard to mud. Elena stood abruptly, moved to the porch rail. Sam thought he'd said too much, pushed too hard. Then she spoke, so soft he almost missed it under the storm. I dream about it sometimes. Being clean, not just my body, my soul. But some stains don't wash out. Sam rose, joined her at the rail, careful to keep distance between them, aware of how she tensed when men came too close. You know what I see when I look at you? She shook her head. I see a woman who endured hell to protect her child, who faces each day with courage I can barely fathom, who's teaching Rosa to be strong and kind and brave. He paused. That's not a stain, that's honor. Elena's breath hitched. You don't know what I've done. Don't need to. I know who you are now. She turned to face him fully, rain misting her face. And who am I? Elena Morales, mother, survivor, the woman who makes the best tortillas in Texas and who hums while she cooks, who reads to Rosa every night and mends my shirts without being asked, who's bringing life back to this place. Sam? Her voice broke on his name. I'm not asking for anything, he said quickly. Not expecting anything. Just want you to know how I see you, how Rosa sees you, how you should see yourself. She studied him for a long moment, rain and lamplight playing across her face. Then, slowly, she reached out. Her fingertips brushed the back of his hand where it rested on the rail. The touch lasted only a heartbeat before she pulled back. but Sam felt it like a lightning strike. "My husband, Rosa's father, he was handsome," she said suddenly. "Charming, said pretty words, made pretty promises. I was 16 and foolish and believed them all. When I told him I was pregnant, he hit me for the first time." Sam's jaw tightened, but he stayed quiet. "He hit me many times after that. Said it was my fault for trapping him, for being mestiza, for giving him a half-blood daughter instead of a son. When the debts came due and the men came calling, he didn't hesitate. Sold us both to cover what he owed for whiskey and cards." "Elena, I need to tell this." She gripped the rail, knuckles white. "Need you to understand. The men who bought us, they used—" She stopped, breathing hard. "I let them, to keep them away from Rosa, to keep her fed. I did things that make me sick to remember, and I'd do them again. For her. You protected your daughter, no shame in that." "No," she laughed, harsh. "Then why do I feel so dirty? Why do I flinch when you walk too close? Why do I want to scrub my skin raw every time I remember their hands?" Thunder crashed overhead. Sam chose his words carefully. "Because you're human. Because what happened to you was wrong. Because healing takes time. What if I never heal? What if I'm broken forever? Then you're broken doesn't make you worth less." He turned his hand palm up on the rail. "An invitation. We're all broken somehow. Trick is finding people who help hold the pieces together." Elena stared at his offered hand. Slowly, trembling, she laid her palm across his, not gripping, just touching, connecting. "Your wife," she whispered. "She was lucky to be loved by a good man. I was the lucky one. Could you—" She stopped, started again. "Could you ever see someone like me that way? Not now. I don't mean now. But someday? Could a man like you ever look at a woman like me and see something besides what's been done to her?" Sam turned his hand, very gently, until their fingers intertwined. She didn't pull away. "I already do," he said simply. Elena made a sound, half sob, half laugh. "I don't know how to do this, how to be clean, normal. I don't know how to trust or be touched without fear. I may never know." "Don't need to know. Just need to try. When you're ready, if you're ever ready. And if I'm never ready, then we'll be the best neighbors Texas ever saw." That startled a real laugh from her. Short but genuine. "You're a strange man, Sam McKenna." Been told that before. They stood in comfortable silence, hands linked, watching the storm roll across the valley. Sam felt something ease in his chest, some knot that had been tied since Mary died. Not gone, it would never be fully gone, but looser. "I should check on Rosa," Elena said eventually, though she made no move to leave. "She sleeps like the dead in storms, takes after her mother that way." "How would you know how I sleep?" Heat crept up Sam's neck. "I meant, you seem the type to sleep sound. Not that I've been watching or—" "Sam," she squeezed his hand. "I was teasing." "Oh." He felt foolish, like a green boy. How long since he'd navigated these waters? "Right. Although," she tilted her head, "I haven't been sleeping well. Too many dreams. Maybe knowing someone's watching over us would help." "I'm always watching over you, both of you." "I know." Her thumb brushed across his knuckles. "That's what makes you different. You watch over, not just watch." The rain began to slacken, the storm moving on. Soon Rosa would wake, dawn would come, the day's work would begin. But for now, they stood together in the lamplit darkness, two damaged souls finding solace in simple touch. "Elena," Sam said, "whatever happens, however long it takes, I want you to know you're safe here. No expectations, no demands, just safe." She lifted their joined hands, studied them as if they were something foreign. Then, in a move that surprised them both, she pressed his knuckles to her cheek. Just for a moment, just a breath, before releasing him and stepping back. "I'm starting to believe that," she said. "God help me. I'm starting to believe." She went inside then, leaving Sam alone with the fading storm. He looked down at his hand, still feeling the warmth of her touch, the dampness of what might have been a tear. For the first time in 2 years, Sam McKenna found himself thinking not of the past, but of possibility. Not of what he'd lost, but of what might, carefully and patiently, be built anew. The rain whispered promises across the desert, and Sam, standing in the darkness with the ghost of Elena's touch on his skin, whispered a promise of his own, as long as it takes. The autumn sun cast long shadows across the ranch as Sam led the old mare, Buttercup, from the barn. She was gentle as a lamb, perfect for teaching young riders. He'd bought her years ago with Emma in mind, though his daughter had only gotten a few lessons before the fever took her. "Is that for me?" Rosa bounced on her toes, eyes bright with excitement. She'd been asking about riding for weeks, ever since she'd seen him working with the horses. "If your mama says it's all right." Sam glanced at Elena, who stood on the porch wringing her hands. "Please, Mama, please." Rosa clasped her hands together. "I'll be very careful." Elena bit her lip. In the 2 months since they'd arrived, she'd grown less wary. But watching her daughter near the large animal brought fresh anxiety to her features. She's so small, and the horse is so big. Buttercup's carried smaller, Sam assured her. Taught half the children in the valley to ride over the years. She's patient as a saint. I don't know. "Mama." Rosa's voice turned serious, older than her years. "Mr. Sam won't let anything bad happen. He promised." Something passed between mother and daughter. One of those wordless communications Sam had noticed they shared. Finally. Elena nodded. "All right, but carefully." Rosa whooped and ran to Sam, who lifted her easily onto Buttercup's broad back. Her little hands gripped the saddle horn as he adjusted the stirrups to fit her short legs. "First rule," he said, "is to stay calm. Horses feel what you feel. You're nervous, she's nervous. You're confident, she's confident. Understand?" Rosa nodded solemnly. "Like when Mama's upset and I get upset too." Exactly like that. He showed her how to hold the reins, how to sit properly, how to use her legs to communicate. She listened with the intense focus he'd come to expect from her, absorbing every word. They started with Sam leading Buttercup in slow circles around the yard. Rosa sat rigid at first, but gradually relaxed as she realized the mare would neither bolt nor buck. After a while, she was grinning broad enough to split her face. "Look, Mama, I'm riding. I'm really riding." Elena had come down from the porch to watch closer, still tense, but smiling at her daughter's joy. "I see. Mija, you're doing wonderful." "Can I go faster?" Rosa asked Sam. "Just a little? Let's see how you do at a walk first. Speed comes later." They continued the lessons every evening after chores. Rosa proved a natural, fearless but not reckless, with good instincts for reading the horse's mood. Within a week, she was riding Buttercup around the corral without Sam holding the lead rope. It was during one of these lessons that it happened. Rosa was practicing turning, concentrating hard on using the reins correctly, when she called out, "Papa, watch this!" Sam's hands stilled on the fence rail. Rosa didn't seem to realize what she'd said, too focused on executing a perfect figure 8. But Elena had heard. Their eyes met across the corral, hers wide with something between apology and question. "That was good," Sam managed, voice rougher than intended. "Now try it the other direction." "Yes, Papa." There it was again, natural as breathing. That night, after Rosa had gone to bed chattering about horses and riding and how Buttercup was the best horse in all of Texas, Elena found Sam on the porch. He'd taken to spending evenings there again, watching the stars and trying to sort through the tangle of emotions that grew more complex by the day. "I'm sorry," she said without preamble. "I'll tell her not to." "Don't," Elena paused. You don't mind?" Sam studied his hands. "Emma used to call me Papa. Haven't heard it in 2 years. He cleared his throat. "It's nice. Hearing it again." "Oh, Sam." Elena sank into the chair beside him. They'd grown comfortable with each other's proximity these past weeks. though she still startled at unexpected touches. "Are you sure? I don't want her to presume, or make you uncomfortable, or—" "She's not presuming anything." He looked at her then. "Is she?" Elena was quiet for a long moment. Then, "She's never had a father. Not really. Her actual father was, well, you know what he was. She's watched you these past months, how you're patient with her, how you teach her things, how you protect us. In her mind, that's what fathers do. So you're Papa. And in your mind?" The question hung between them like morning mist. Elena looked out over the darkened valley, her profile etched in lamplight. "In my mind, you're the best man I've ever known, and if Rosa wants to call you Papa, I think that would be all right, if you're certain." "I'm certain." She turned to him then, eyes bright. "She loves you, you know, talks about you constantly. Mr. Sam says this. Mr. Sam does that. Yesterday she told me she wants to be a rancher like you when she grows up. Could do worse for ambitions." "Yes." Elena's voice went soft. "She could." They sat in comfortable silence, the night sounds of the desert surrounding them. Somewhere in the distance, a coyote called to its pack. The wind carried the scent of sage and coming winter. "I've been thinking," Elena said eventually, "about what you said, about being broken but still worthy." Sam waited, knowing she'd continue when ready. I think I'm starting to believe it. Not all the time. Some days the memories are so heavy I can barely breathe. But then I see Rosa laughing, or taste food that I cooked in my own kitchen, or—" She paused. "Or I see you looking at me like I'm just Elena, not what was done to me, and I think maybe I can be more than my worst moments." "You already are." She shifted in her chair, angling toward him. "I want to try something. Will you trust me?" "Always." Elena stood, moved to stand before his chair, slowly, telegraphing every movement. She reached out and touched his face. Her palm was warm against his cheek, calloused from work but gentle. Sam held perfectly still, afraid to break whatever spell had brought this moment. "You need to shave," she said, thumb brushing across his jaw. "Been meaning to get to that." "Liar. You forget when there's no one to remind you." Her other hand came up, framing his face. "Mary reminded you, didn't she? Every Sunday. I could remind you. If you wanted." Sam's heart hammered against his ribs. "Elena, shh." She leaned down, slow enough he could have stopped her, could have turned away. He didn't. Her lips brushed his, barely a touch, light as butterfly wings. Then again, firmer, more certain. It was nothing like kissing Mary had been. That had been young love, passionate and carefree. This was careful, tentative. Two damaged people testing if they could still feel without breaking. When Elena pulled back, they were both trembling. "Was that all right?" she whispered. "More than all right." Sam's voice came out rough. "But only if you're sure. I don't want you to feel obligated or—" She silenced him with another kiss, this one carrying a hint of the fire he sensed banked beneath her careful control. "I feel many things around you, Sam McKenna. Obligation isn't one of them." From inside the house came Rosa's voice, calling for water. Elena straightened, smiled, a real smile that transformed her face. "I should go." "Elena." He caught her hand as she turned. "Take whatever time you need. I'm not going anywhere." She squeezed his fingers. "I know. That's what makes you wonderful." She went inside, leaving Sam alone with the stars and the memory of her lips on his. From the house, he heard Rosa's sleepy voice, Elena's soft response, his girl's. He thought, then caught himself. Not his, not yet, maybe not ever, but for the first time in 2 years. The word family didn't feel like a knife between his ribs. The next evening, when Rosa called him Papa during her riding lesson, he simply smiled and corrected her hand position on the reins. And when Elena watched from the fence with that soft look in her eyes, he allowed himself to think that maybe, just maybe, broken people could build something whole together. "Papa?" Can Buttercup and I race the wind tomorrow? Rosa asked as he lifted her down from the saddle. We'll see. Little one, we'll see. She hugged him around the legs, quick and fierce, then ran to tell her mother about everything she'd learned. Sam watched them together, dark heads bent close, and felt the walls around his heart crack a little more, not breaking, just making room. The morning dawned crisp and clear, the kind of October day that made the desert bloom with unexpected color. Sam stood at his workbench in the barn, studying the piece of metal in his hands. It had been part of his old cavalry saber, broken in the fight with Doyle's men when one of them had tried to flank the house. Now, heated and hammered and shaped with careful patience, it was becoming something else entirely. A ring, simple, unadorned, but strong, like Elena herself. 3 months had passed since that first kiss on the porch. 3 months of careful courtship, of learning each other's rhythms, of building trust one day at a time. Elena still had nights when shadows haunted her eyes, when she couldn't bear to be touched. But there were other nights too, nights when she sought his hand, his embrace, his quiet strength. That's pretty, Rosa said from the doorway, making him jump. The child had a talent for moving silent as a ghost when she wanted. It's supposed to be a surprise, Sam said, mock stern. Rosa grinned, unrepentant. For Mama? Maybe. She'll say yes. The confidence in her voice made Sam's chest tight. She loves you. She told Senora Martinez at the market last week. Did she now? See, said you were the best thing that happened to us. Then Senora Martinez said it was about time you found happiness again, and Mama said she hoped she could make you happy. And then they talked about chickens for a long time, and I got bored. Sam laughed, the sound rusty but genuine. Chickens are important conversation, not as important as weddings. Rosa climbed onto a crate to watch him work. Will I get a new dress? My church dress is getting too small. If your mama says yes, you'll get the prettiest dress in Texas. When will you ask her? Sam considered the ring, still rough but taking shape. Soon. Today. Rosa. Tomorrow. Child, you're worse than a mosquito. But he was smiling. When the time's right. The time came sooner than expected. That afternoon, Elena was hanging laundry when one of the neighbors rode up fast. Tom Bradley, whose spread bordered Sam's to the east. Riders coming, Tom said without preamble. Dozen, maybe more. Thought you should know. Sam's blood chilled. Doyle? Could be. They're moving careful like. Staying to the draws. Tom glanced at Elena, who'd gone still as stone, wet sheet clutched in her hands. Want me to gather the boys? No. Sam checked his rifle, his sidearm. This is my fight. Our fight, Elena said quietly. She'd set down the laundry, stood straight-backed despite the fear he could see in her eyes. Rosa, go to the cellar. But Mama? Now, mija. The child ran, knowing that tone brooked no argument. Elena turned to Sam. Give me a gun. Elena, I won't hide while you fight for us. Not again. Her chin lifted. I know how to shoot. My brother taught me. Sam studied her face, saw the determination there. He handed her the shotgun from the porch. Stay behind cover. Only shoot if they get past me. They won't get past you, she said with quiet certainty. Tom rode off to watch from the ridge, ready to fetch help if needed. Sam positioned himself behind the water trough, good cover with clear sight lines. Elena took the porch, partially concealed behind the thick corner post. They didn't have long to wait. The riders came up the valley road in a loose group, Doyle at their head. But something was different this time. Among the hired guns were 2 men in dark suits, out of place as crows among vultures. McKenna, Doyle called out as they reined up just outside rifle range. Got some official business with you. State it from there. One of the suited men rode forward, hands visible. U.S. Marshal Hopkins, we've had complaints about you harboring fugitive property. Sam's jaw tightened. No fugitives here, no property either, just free people on their own land. Now that's where you're wrong. Doyle called out, grinning. "See, I got papers, bills of sale, all legal-like. These marshals are here to enforce the law. Fugitive Slave Act says we got to return escaped property to rightful owners." The second marshal added. He looked uncomfortable, like he'd rather be anywhere else. "Don't like it much myself, but law's the law. The war ended 5 years ago." Sam said. "That act died with it. Not in all jurisdictions," the first marshal said. "Some territories still recognize certain transactions, Mr. Doyle has documentation showing he purchased these individuals legal and proper." From the porch, Elena made a sound, part laugh, part sob. "Legal, as if paper makes evil right." "Ma'am, I'm going to need you to come with us." The marshal continued. "You and the child both, Mr. Doyle's agreed not to press charges for theft if Mr. McKenna cooperates. Generous of me, ain't it?" Doyle's pig eyes glittered with malice. "Course, if he don't cooperate, well, accidents happen when folks resist the law." Sam stood slowly, rifle held loose but ready. "Marshal, you seem like a decent man, so I'll tell you once, you've been lied to. I bought these people's freedom fair and square, paid gold for it. Doyle took the money willing enough." "He's got no proof," Doyle snarled. "No papers, no witnesses." "I witnessed it." Everyone turned. Old Martha from Covenant Springs had appeared on the road, driving her rickety wagon. Behind her came others, Tom Bradley with 3 of his hands, the widow Patterson and her sons, even Reverend Mills from the church Elena had started attending. "I was there," Martha continued, voice carrying clear. "Saw Sam McKenna pay enough gold to buy half the county. Saw him refuse the papers. 2, said free people don't need bills of sale. Same here." Tom Bradley spoke up. "Known Sam McKenna 15 years. He says he freed them. He freed them. The whole town knows the truth." Reverend Mills added, "These are members of my congregation. Marshal, free members." The second marshal shifted uncomfortably in his saddle. "Jake, you said—" "They're lying." Doyle's face had gone purple. "Whole town's in on it. Or maybe," the first marshal said slowly, "you're the one lying. Wouldn't be the first time someone tried to use us to settle a personal score. You calling me a liar? I'm saying we're done here." The marshal turned his horse. "No proof of ownership, and plenty of witnesses saying otherwise. Far as I'm concerned, these folks are free as anyone. You can't just—" Doyle reached for his gun. 3 things happened at once. Sam's rifle came up. Elena's shotgun boomed, sending buckshot into the ground at Doyle's horse's feet, and the first marshal drew and cocked his pistol in one smooth motion. "You pull that iron, I'll put you down myself," the marshal said calmly. "Attempted murder of a federal officer's a hanging offense." Doyle's hand froze. Around him, his hired guns looked nervous. Facing down one rancher was different from facing a town and 2 marshals. "This ain't over," Doyle snarled. "Yes," Sam said quietly. "It is. You come here again, you'll be met with more than just words. Every ranch in this valley will stand against you. Free people protect their own." For a long moment, nobody moved. Then Doyle spat in the dust, wheeled his horse. "Let's go." They rode out in a cloud of dust and profanity. The marshals tipped their hats to Elena, nodded to Sam, and followed. Only when they were gone did Sam lower his rifle. Did Elena sink down to sit on the porch steps. The neighbors converged on the yard, everyone talking at once. Rosa burst from the cellar and flew to her mother's arms, in the chaos of congratulations and relief. Sam slipped away to the barn. The ring sat on his workbench, still unfinished, but suddenly, that didn't matter. He grabbed it, rough as it was, and strode back to the yard. "Elena," he called out. She turned, Rosa still in her arms, tears streaming down her face. The crowd fell silent. Sam dropped to one knee right there in the dusty yard, in front of God and half the county. "Elena Morales, you're the strongest, bravest woman I've ever known. You brought light back to this dark place, you and Rosa both." He held up the ring, metal catching the afternoon sun. "I made this from the sword that defended our home. Seemed fitting. since you're the one worth fighting for. Will you marry me?" Elena set Rosa down, walked to him on shaking legs. "Sam McKenna, you wonderful fool." "Yes, yes, of course, yes." The yard erupted in cheers. Rosa danced around them shouting, "We're getting married," while Martha wiped tears and declared it about damn time. Tom Bradley produced a bottle of whiskey from somewhere, and Reverend Mills started talking about available dates. But Sam heard none of it. Elena had pulled him to his feet, was kissing him there in front of everyone, not caring who saw. When they broke apart, she was laughing and crying at once. "The ring's not finished," he said, apologetic. "It's perfect." She held out her hand. Let him slide it on. "We're not finished either, but we're perfect too. Now we are 3. Rosa inserted herself between them, hugging both their legs. "A real family. A real family," Elena agreed, scooping up her daughter. "What do you think, Mija? Want Sam to be your papa for real?" "He already is," Rosa said simply. "But now everyone will know." Later, after the neighbors had gone and Rosa was in bed and the night had settled peaceful over the ranch, Sam and Elena sat on the porch where their story had truly begun. "Thank you," Elena said softly, "for fighting for us, for choosing us." "Thank you," Sam replied, "for giving me something to fight for again." She leaned into him, his arm around her shoulders, her head on his chest. "When should we marry?" "Tomorrow wouldn't be too soon," she laughed. "Rosa needs her dress, remember? And I should write to Miguel. Tell him I'm alive, that I'm happy, that I found a good man. Take all the time you need." "A month?" she suggested. "November wedding, before the winter cold." "A month," Sam agreed. They sat in comfortable silence, watching stars appear one by one. Inside, Rosa murmured in her sleep. The horses drowsed in the barn. All was peaceful. All was right. "I love you," Elena said, the words still new enough to cause wonder. "I didn't think I could again, but I do." "I love you too," Sam replied. "Both of you." And there on the porch of a house that had known too much sorrow, 2 broken hearts began planning a future whole. The November sun cast golden light across the wildflower meadow behind the ranch, where neighbors had gathered chairs and benches in rough rows. Elena stood behind the house, hands trembling as Martha helped her with the final buttons on her dress, not white, for she'd insisted she was no untouched bride, but a soft blue that brought out the warmth in her skin. "Stop fussing," Martha chided gently. "You look beautiful." "I can't stop shaking," Elena admitted. What if nothing? That man's been waiting for you at the altar for 20 minutes already, looking like he might bolt if you don't show soon." Martha tucked a desert rose behind Elena's ear. "Not from cold feet. Mind, more like he can't believe his good fortune." Rosa burst through the door in her new yellow dress, ribbons flying. "Mama, everyone's waiting. Mister, Tom's playing his fiddle and Mrs. Patterson brought 3 pies, and Papa keeps checking his pocket watch." "All right, Mija, all right." Elena took a deep breath, smoothed her skirt. The dress was simple, sewn by her own hands with fabric Sam had brought from town, but she felt beautiful in it. More importantly, she felt like herself, not the broken woman from the slave market, but Elena Morales, soon to be Elena McKenna, choosing her own path. They walked around the house together, Rosa practically vibrating with excitement. The moment Elena appeared, the fiddle music stopped. Every head turned, but Elena only had eyes for Sam. He stood beneath an arch of mesquite branches that the Bradley boys had constructed, wearing his best shirt and a look of wonder that made her heart skip. Reverend Mills waited beside him, Bible in hand. When Sam saw her, his face broke into a smile so pure it took her breath away. Rosa ran ahead, taking her place as flower girl, tossing late-season wildflowers with abandon. Elena walked slowly, savoring each step toward this man who'd given her back her life. When she reached him, he held out his hand, and she took it without hesitation. "Dearly beloved," Reverend Mills began, but Elena barely heard the words. She was lost in Sam's eyes, in the calloused warmth of his hands holding hers, in the miracle of standing here free and whole and choosing love. The couple has written their own vows. The Reverend said, "Sam?" Sam cleared his throat, squeezed her hands. "Elena, you came into my life when I'd forgotten how to live. You and Rosa brought light back to dark places, laughter back to silent rooms. You've seen me at my worst and somehow decided I was worth loving anyway." His voice roughened. "I promise to protect you, to stand beside you, to give you and Rosa a home where you're always safe, always free, always loved. I promise to be the man you both deserve, for all my days." Elena was crying now, not caring who saw. "Sam, you showed me that gentleness could exist in strength, that men could protect without possessing. You gave us freedom, but more than that, you gave us home. You looked at me and saw not what had been done to me, but who I could become." She smiled through her tears. "I promise to stand with you through whatever comes, to build a life full of small joys and everyday miracles. I promise to love you and trust you and probably burn dinner at least once a week, because I'll be distracted watching you work." That drew laughter from the crowd. And Sam grinned. "I like your burned dinners." "The rings?" Reverend Mills prompted. Tom Bradley's youngest boy came forward with the rings on a cushion his mother had embroidered. Sam's ring for Elena had been polished now, gleaming in the sun. Elena's ring for Sam was simpler, a band she'd had the blacksmith make from one of her last pieces of jewelry, a bracelet that had somehow survived everything. They exchanged rings with steady hands, promises made metal. Then Reverend Mills was pronouncing them husband and wife, and Sam was kissing her there in front of everyone. Gentle and sure. "Now we are three," Rosa shouted. Flinging herself at their legs, Sam scooped her up, and they stood there, a family complete, while their neighbors cheered. The celebration moved to the yard, where tables groaned under the weight of everyone's contributions. There was music and dancing and more food than they could eat in a week. Rosa ran wild with the other children, her laughter bright as bird song. Elena danced with Sam to Tom's fiddle, feeling lighter than she had in years. As the sun set, painting the desert in shades of rose and gold, Elena found herself on the porch with Sam, watching their guests enjoy themselves. Rosa had fallen asleep in Martha's lap, worn out from excitement. "Happy?" Sam asked, arm around her waist. "More than I have words for." She leaned into him. "I never thought, after everything, I never thought I could have this." "Neither did I." They stood quietly, content in each other's presence. Then Elena noticed something new, a wooden sign Sam must have hung that morning, right beside the front door. "La Casa de Esperanza." She read softly. "The House of Hope." Seemed fitting. Sam said, "This place gave us all hope again. Figured we should make it official." Elena turned in his arms, kissed him soundly. "It's perfect. You're perfect." "Far from it. But I'm yours. And I'm yours. By choice this time. Always by choice." Later. After the guests had gone and Rosa was tucked in her bed, Elena stood in the bedroom she now shared with her husband. The room that had been closed since Mary's death was open again, aired out and made new. Not erasing the past, but making space for the future. "I know she'd be happy for you," Elena said softly. "Mary, I think she'd be glad you found love again." Sam came up behind her, wrapped his arms around her waist. "I think she'd have liked you, would have admired your strength. I talk to her sometimes, and Emma, at their graves. Thank them for raising such a good man." She turned in his arms. "Is that strange? No stranger than me asking them to watch over you and Rosa." He kissed her forehead. "We're a family of the living and the remembered. Room for all of us." That night, in the bed they now shared as husband and wife, Elena traced the scars on Sam's chest by lamplight. He caught her hand, brought it to his lips. "No more looking back," he said. "Only forward, only forward," she agreed. And in a house that had known too much sorrow, joy took root and bloomed. Years later, When Rosa had children of her own and the ranch had grown prosperous, Elena would tell the story to anyone who'd listen, how a broken man and an enslaved woman found each other in the most unlikely place, how kindness could conquer cruelty, how choice could overcome circumstance, how love could grow in the harshest ground. I am not owned, she would always end the tale. I am not broken, I am loved, I am home. And in the House of Hope, surrounded by family born of choice and chance and courage, every word was true. The desert wind carried their story across the valley, whispered it to other hearts that needed hope. And sometimes, on quiet nights, if you listened close, you could hear it still, the echo of laughter from a house once silent, the promise that broken things could be made whole, the truth that love was the strongest freedom of all. In La Casa de Esperanza, the McKenna family lived and loved and proved every day that some chains, once broken, could never be reforged, and that was the greatest miracle of all. Thank you for listening to this story of love and redemption from the Wild West. I'd love to know where you're enjoying this tale. Are you listening during your commute, relaxing at home, or perhaps on a long drive? Please subscribe to our channel From Wild West and share your thoughts in the comments below. Your stories and reactions mean the world to us, and they help us continue bringing these tales of hope and courage from the American frontier. Until next time, partners.